Everyone's favorite Five-Head is back, this time with a new series. Let's have a listen and see if his claims have any merit this time. Spoiler alert, they don't.
It's about time I started a new series on this channel, but what to talk about?
The same shit you always do, complaining about women and minorities in movies and media properties. The hell do you mean, new series? All you're going to do is the same thing you've always done. Bitch about the message. Say how modern movies hate white men and play the same tired couple of clips you always play, like Lilu laughing, a woman farting, a vomiting clip from Team America, Jeff Daniels on the toilet, or some British woman saying shite. You are nothing if not predictable. Hell, quite a lot of what you say in these videos is you rephrasing what you already said in the Why Modern Movies Suck series, only in this video we're swapping out Daisy Ridley and Brie Larson for your new punching bag, Rachel Zegler. What I'm saying is, you are audience captured and literally can't make a video that's not about these specific topics. I mean, when's the last time you spoke to your audience about how to properly write a character in a fictional story? Like, aren't you a writer? Why is it that you have these complaints but can't explain how to properly do it in a video and to do it without the culture war grifting bullshit you always pull? That would actually be interesting, to learn what makes a great character from a published writer. But that's not what brings the views in, is it?
What aspect of the film industry could I look at this time? Then it hit me.
It's Hollywood, baby.
Then it hit me, he says, as if he doesn't have 10 videos on this person already, and that he still has something to actually say that he hasn't already said about Zegler and other actors he's honed in on over the years. I hope those of you who are angry with me for criticizing this guy are paying attention. He's very clearly announcing his intention to grift on culture war nonsense here. A new series to say everything he's already said.
No. Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Don't act like that's not what we do.
I don't build a narrative. I
You
give
are
my
an absolute
opinion.
fucking.
You are hard.
What we do. You've made the same fucking video on the same topic at least 7 times a week, Ryan. And you're gonna act like we don't do that.
I talk about, yeah, I talk about
says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
So, without further ado, I bring you Crash and Burn, a story of celebrity failure. And truly, we're starting off strong with this one. Celebrity meltdowns don't get much more dramatic and spectacular than Rachel Zegler, a girl who single-handedly transformed herself from an up-and-coming darling of Hollywood to one of the most nuclear-grade toxic celebrities in the entire movie industry. And how did she manage it? Well, pull up a chair and let me tell you a tale. Our story begins in New Jersey back in 2001 when Rachel Zegler was born to Colombian and Polish parents. Damn man, that's a hell of a combination.
Very obvious anti-race mixing dog whistle here. There is obviously nothing crazy about a white guy marrying a Hispanic woman. This happens literally all the time, because it is the most common interracial pairing. And I know the pushback to what I'm saying here is that he's specifically talking about Polish men and Colombian women, but I would counter with Drinker is getting his information from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia clearly states that her father is of Polish descent, like many other American white men. I mean, none of you are calling Nick Cage a Polish man, even though through his mother he is of Polish descent. Besides, Colombian Poles are a thing, and Polish men with Latinas is a whole ass topic of discussion on TikTok, for fuck's sake. It's like, go outside. You probably need the vitamin D anyway.
Anyway, she went the typical theatre kid route and starred in a bunch of stage shows where she quickly discovered a talent for acting and singing, and even started a YouTube channel where she would cover popular movie songs. Pretty standard stuff so far, and that might have been as far as it went, were it not for Steven Spielberg, who in 2018 was looking to cast Latino actors for his upcoming remake of West Side Story. Young Rachel saw her chance and soon shot to the top of the list for the part of Maria, beating out literally tens of thousands of other hopefuls in the process. Well done, Rachel. The film would ultimately bomb at the box office, but Rachel didn't care. It had put her on the map, and now that her name was out there, she was determined to make the most of it, no matter who she had to piss off in the process. The first real sign of things to come was her behaviour at the 94th Academy Awards, where she was left out of the West Side Story guest list, probably because there's like 200 characters in that film. But Rachel wasn't about to take this shit lying down, and immediately began bitching about it on social media, basically bullying and guilt-tripping the Academy into not just an invite, but an actual presentation gig as well.
Drinker is framing this situation as if Zegler didn't have a righteous argument for being left out, almost as if she was a bit player in the movie and that due to its large cast, simply couldn't find the space for her. The problem here is that she's one of two main characters in that film. She's on the poster, for fuck's sake. How does it make any sense to leave one of the main actors out of a celebration of a film? The movie she starred in was nominated for Best Picture, and she wasn't invited, but because you have a culture war bone to pick with this woman, you call rightfully calling out a nonsensical snub bitching? This all started because someone asked her what she was going to wear to the Oscars, and this was her response. Mind you, Zegler didn't even bitch. It was her fans that called this out, and this is what she tweeted. Very classy, right? Drinker is only calling this bitching because he's a misogynist that regularly lies about women on his platform because he knows his lunatic followers will not fact-check him because they want to believe that women are one of the problems with modern entertainment.
I mean, if nothing else, you've got to respect the sheer balls of this fucking 20-year-old nobody lecturing the biggest film organization on the planet about what she's entitled to.
As I just explained, the Drinker is lying about Zegler's response to being snubbed, but what's even more hilarious is he called her a nobody lecturing film organizations. He's literally describing himself. Almost all of his content is him lecturing film organizations, telling them what they should do and how movies should be made, which is made even funnier by the fact that Drinker doesn't know shit about filmmaking, as can be seen in his own attempt at making a movie. I mean, this is the guy that is enlisting the help of another amateur in Mauler because his first attempt at filmmaking was a bit shite.
Don't worry though, entitlement would soon prove to be a running theme of Rachel Zegler's career. While all this was going on, she'd also landed a supporting role in Shazam 2, which wasn't exactly career-making stuff, but rather the kind of easy, undemanding job that actors take for a quick payday.
And now you're contradicting yourself. You just said that she's a nobody that shouldn't act entitled, but now you're denigrating her for taking her second acting gig ever in a big-budget studio superhero movie. If she's a nobody, this is precisely the type of film to shed that label, wouldn't you say? And if she shouldn't act entitled, she should have been grateful to be cast in a movie like this, especially since we know superhero movies make you known worldwide. Her being picky about what film she should be in with only one acting credit to her name would actually make her entitled, numbnuts.
The thing is though, you're not supposed to say that part out loud, but that's exactly what she did during the film's press tour.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
It was like she had no filter, no idea of what's appropriate to say, no understanding that she was basically shitting on the film before it was even released. A film that was literally the second role of her entire career by that point. You're not quite so high that you can look down on movies like Shazam 2, Rachel.
I will never get over how you people just blatantly lie to your audiences. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to play the full clip.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job. I'm being so serious. I mean, a lot of people keep asking me. Hi, Adam. My agent's over there. Hi, Ken. My lawyer. My entire family is here. Hi, everybody. Sorry. No, I mean, the reality was we were in the middle of a pandemic and I was not working and I couldn't get a job for the life of me because West Side Story hadn't come out yet and it was really hard to book work for me. So I was really excited when this came in my inbox. I loved the first movie and the fact that they even wanted me to come in for a callback and then a chem read and then everything in between. I'm so lucky.
Do you see how showing everything she said completely refutes the lie Drinker just told? And it's not like he didn't see this footage. He's clearly captured this from the same source that I did, so he's purposefully not showing you what she actually said and quote-mined her to make it sound like she's just doing the film for a buck, when actually she wanted to work and couldn't due to the pandemic.
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Drinker also states that she's bad-mouthing the film when in this same footage she says,
In between, I'm so lucky that I got this job. I made some of my best friends on this job, and I just absolutely adore this movie too, so I'm excited.
Can you get any more pathetic, Will? I mean, if you actually had a point, you wouldn't need to lie to get it across.
Anyway, the film would go on to flop at the box office, making 2 flops in a row for Rachel.
A quick interjection here. Will is making it seem as if this film flopping was on her, when in this movie she wasn't even top billed. She was a love interest for the deuteragonist, making her at the very best the 5th most important actor in the film, someone who was barely featured in the marketing material. Which is why Drinker keeps showing this clip, as this is one of 3 clips that prominently features her in that first trailer. That film flopped because people completely checked out of the DCEU, as Warner Brothers announced its cancellation the year before that film released, making it a non-priority for fans. Every DCEU film after Aquaman underperformed at the box office, not just Shazam 2. And it's strange that Will isn't laying this film's failure at the feet of Zachary Levi, the lead actor of that film. And that's probably because Zach is a right-wing white guy, Will's favorite gender.
But that's okay though, because she had her eyes on an even bigger prize by this point. In 2021, Zegler truly hit the big time when she was cast as the lead role in Disney's Snow White. The powers that be in Hollywood were clearly working to position her as the next big thing. Young, talented, diverse, and confident. A mini girl boss in the making, if you will. She was going to be the new Jennifer Lawrence, the face of the next generation of Hollywood starlets that would lead the industry for the next decades.
That's another buzzword these anti-woke losers came up with. Girl boss. Which of course implies that the boy boss is the correct way to go about things. What I find interesting though is this idea that being cast as a Disney princess makes one a girl boss. Like what? Isn't a princess a member of a royal family, meaning she inherently has some level of authority? If a girl boss is a bad thing, then that means fictional princesses are fundamentally bad. These people do not think their stupid ideas through.
Unfortunately, with all that fame and success came increased attention. People were actually listening to what she had to say now, and holy shit, did Zegler have a lot to say. Now, you've all seen her infamous red carpet interviews, so I'm not going to subject you to another tedious montage of it, but the point here is that her comments didn't go down quite the way she'd anticipated. For most people, this was their first real introduction to Rachel Zegler, and it wasn't a good one. She came across as arrogant, entitled, and self-absorbed, casually insulting and dismissing the original Snow White and banging on about the new film being made for modern audiences.
As I have hopefully taught the audience by now, you should not trust what this man says and you should watch the full footage for yourselves. This is the full clip from that interview.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's one of those things.
So true,
it's
yeah.
an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self, and she meets a lot of people along the way that make the journey really incredible.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign. I am.
Very inflammatory, huh? As you can see, Rachel and Gal state that in this version, Snow White won't be saved by the prince, and Zegler adds that it's not 1937 anymore, meaning the film's narrative will be reworked and that Snow White will have a bit more agency as a character. For example, instead of her cleaning the dwarves' home, she teaches them how to clean their own mess. This makes sense, as in the original film, Snow White doesn't really do much, as the film is very short by modern standards at only 83 minutes. The queen sends her to the forest to be killed, the huntsman lets her escape, she cleans the dwarves' house, and while they're at work, she's given a poison apple by the queen in disguise. The majority of that film is dead space, showing the antics of the dwarves and a couple of songs, so if you're going to remake it, it makes sense to attempt to flesh out the titular character a bit more. In the original film, she's saved by a deus ex machina, as the prince from the beginning of the movie comes out of nowhere, randomly happening upon the glass coffin she's in, and he kisses what he thinks is a dead woman on the lips that he's only met for the second time.
With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah. Weird.
Weird.
We're told through words on the screen and not shown that he's been searching for her for months because he heard of a maiden in a glass coffin, begging the question of how he heard of this in the first place, because we are also told that the dwarves who built the coffin never left her side. So how did he hear about the maiden in the glass coffin? The dwarves are the only people that know about this.
Guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah. Weird.
Weird.
That's what she means by it's not 1937 anymore, as this not only narratively doesn't make any sense, a lot of the events in the original film are things that we know better than to do in 2025. That being said, what Rachel and Gal said was technically wrong, as the prince does save Snow White by kissing her in the movie. I think what they were trying to say, or what they should have said, is that the movie doesn't stop there as it does in the original film, because in the original film, the dwarves chase the queen until she falls to her death, and in this movie, the queen kills herself by destroying her mirror.
Now, in her defense, I still believe that she was delivering talking points given to her by the studio, but there is a way to get those kind of points across without sounding like an obnoxious arsehole. And she didn't do it.
And as I have shown, she didn't sound obnoxious or like an asshole. You people made a mountain out of a molehill like you always do. She made a quip about the film being updated and was supported in those claims by the other main actress, but for some reason you're only going after her. I wonder why.
This stuff all came at the worst possible time in Hollywood history too, when the whole remade for modern audiences bubble was about to burst. The result? A social media firestorm the likes of which has never been seen before or probably since. Even Brie Larson in her Captain Marvel heyday never came close to the level of backlash directed at Snow White, and more specifically at Rachel Zegler.
A blatant lie, as you people are still talking about Brie Larson 7 years later when she hasn't said or done anything publicly since then. Your trained dog nerd Roddick is still putting her in thumbnails as of a couple months ago, and she's featured in this very video for no reason other than to be a barometer to measure your new punching bag against.
For a lot of people, she basically became the personification of everything they disliked about modern Hollywood. A spoiled, entitled, and not particularly talented manufactured celebrity elevated to a position she didn't deserve, and without the humility or self-awareness to even be grateful for it.
What's all this nonsense about being elevated to a position she didn't deserve? She's an actress that can sing her ass off. That's why she was cast as Snow White. By definition, she earned that role. And I love the fact that you're showing another anti-woke dipshit like End Wokeness on the screen, upset at an actor demanding to be fairly compensated. First of all, this footage is from the SAG-AFTRA strike, where literally all of those actors and filmmakers are demanding fair compensation. That's what a strike is. You people are criticizing her for voicing demands at a strike, one that the actors won, by the way. Her words were exactly what the SAG-AFTRA was demanding, and the studios capitulated to those demands made by the union. So once again, you people are singling her out for no reason other than your misogynist, anti-woke losers desperately trying to keep your culture war alive and lying and omitting facts to do so.
Disney were forced to go into full-blown panic mode, delaying the movie by more than a year while they waited for the backlash to die down, and even putting Zegler on a humiliating, carefully stage-managed apology tour in the hopes of softening her public image.
Surprise, surprise, another lie. Snow White was delayed literally because of those strikes, you moron. How is it possible you're showing evidence of her at the strike asking to be fairly compensated for her role in Snow White, and you still think the film was delayed because of her comments at that very strike? Are you stupid? I mean, I know you think your audience is, and you're likely right, which is why you're able to freely lie to them, but still, you're also showing footage from the Actors on Actors video where Halle Bailey and Rachel just kinda shoot the shit and relate to the fact that they're both Disney princesses. Nothing about this video was her apologizing for any comments she made. There's a reason you're not even playing the audio from this video.
And to some extent, it did kind of work. The marginal success of the new Hunger Games movie in 2023 helped to maintain the illusion that she was still somewhat popular. Unfortunately, it didn't last long.
Yes. The apparent script Disney gave her to follow helped Lionsgate, a completely different company, deliver a successful movie a week after the strike ended by releasing a video of Zegler apparently apologizing a month after that movie released. Seriously, who falls for this shit?
The problems really began, well, anytime she opened her mouth and went off script, and they could only shut her up for so long. When the first trailer for Snow White landed in August 2024, Zegler immediately took to social media to thank her fans for it, even though the trailer got ratioed into oblivion and became one of the most unpopular in YouTube history.
Once again, another YouTuber propagating the myth that these ways to see the YouTube dislikes are in any way accurate. This is how you know this guy is a grifter, because he knows these are inaccurate, being that he can see his own dislikes and see if they match up with what the browser extensions are saying. For example, these tools show my Nerdrotic video as having over 3,000 dislikes, when in actual fact, that video has just over 2,000 dislikes. But even more stupid is this guy implying that she shouldn't have thanked her fans for watching the trailer simply because it got review bombed. It's like you keep calling this person entitled, but when she shows grace in the face of criticism, you're still mad? It's almost like she can't win.
But even then, she couldn't resist dropping in a political hot take, this time weighing in on the Israel-Palestine conflict. Because truly, if there's anyone out there qualified to talk about complex geopolitical issues stretching back thousands of years, it's a spoiled 22-year-old theatre brat that's never even worked a normal job in her entire life.
Suggesting that someone can't have an opinion on a conflict that is being broadcast to social media almost daily because they are an actor is an incredibly dumb thing coming from a guy that criticizes movies but can't actually make them. This is one of the stupidest things you've ever said, and you have made a career out of saying stupid shit. For the record, all she said was free Palestine, something the vast majority of the internet agrees with, so it's not like it was even a hot take. You make it seem like she made a lengthy tweet talking about the history of these two groups, but I guess overreacting to things women say is your modus operandi. That is, unless the woman making the tweet is on your political side, in which case you get on your hands and knees and take it down the throat. I mean, like Rachel, Gina Carano made political posts about events of which she was ill-informed, and you not only supported her right to do so, you wrote a cringy poem about her. So why the hypocrisy here, Will?
Once again, another firestorm erupted, and once again Disney were forced to go into damage control mode, this time assigning her a social media manager and even having producer Mark Platt fly halfway across the country to personally reprimand her and ask her to take down the post. And she fucking refused.
Good for her. Jonah Platt is an anti-Muslim commentator that no one should take seriously. Look at this guy's Instagram, for fuck's sake. A Jewish advocate. Whatever the fuck that means. As you yourself believe with Gina Carano, Rachel should have the right to hold whatever position she wants on current events, and she shouldn't be bullied by people with a vested interest in those events into silence. If she was spreading misinformation or lying about a topic, I would completely understand. But supporting one side of a conflict with a 5-word tweet doesn't give anyone the right to silence her, especially a fucking Zionist. Fuck him and his father. By the way, Gina Carano's post was actually anti-Semitic, being a form of Holocaust denial and Nazi sympathizing, and you thought Disney was wrong to fire her. Like, can we get even a bit of consistency out of your tall-ass forehead?
The fact is, you can only get away with being this much of a headache for the studio if you're a proven heavyweight at the box office with a track record of making serious money for the studio, and Zegler had nothing but a handful of flops and one minor success to her name. But still she didn't stop. From then on, there was just no shutting this girl up. She weighed in on everything from immigration to women's rights to the American election, and every time she opened her mouth, she drove more people away from the movie.
This is an insane level of gaslighting. First of all those things are normal things to have an opinion on. She's a woman, so women's rights would be an important thing to her. She's an American, so the American election is literally something she legally gets an opinion on. And immigration was a campaign issue for the aforementioned election. Why on earth do you think she shouldn't have a say on these things? This shit makes no sense. And second, thinking that she was the one that caused Snow White to flop is hilarious. There were a ton of issues facing that film. For one, people were protesting the movie because Gal was in the film. Half of the people against her being in the film were doing so because she's Israeli and were thus supportive of Rachel's tweets. And the other half were upset with Gal because she was wishy-washy on her support for Israel. On top of that, people were upset with the film being adapted because of the original film's treatment of dwarves. Peter Dinklage criticized the original film's usage of dwarves, which prompted Disney to use CGI for the characters, which then pissed off the dwarf actor community because they viewed that as erasure of opportunities for actors with dwarfism. On top of all of that, the real issue with Zegler was that people were upset that Snow White was being played by a Latina, which was your problem, Will, and it's why you're making this dumbass video along with the other dozen you've already made. We already know you consider the Jewish Gal Gadot to be white, which is why you tweeted that she should have been Snow White. So it was a variety of uphill battles this film faced, as well as the general apathy of the mainstream audience, as going to the theater is expensive and this movie would be on Disney Plus soon after its release anyway. And look at that. It was a huge success, becoming the #1 film on the platform when it hit the service. Look at my surprised face.
She even managed to piss off her Snow White co-star, who funnily enough didn't share her opinion on the whole Israel-Palestine thing, and the tension between them at the 2025 Oscars was so thick you could practically cut it with a butter knife.
If that were true, you'd have been able to show footage of that being the case, and you didn't, which is strange given you seem to make time for these please laugh clips that no one ever laughs at.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
And the Oscar goes to Dune Part 2! Paul Lambert, Stephen James, Reese Salcom, and Girls Next.
Anyway, as I said, Gal did express her opinions on the conflict, and that was a point of controversy from her fellow Israelis and Palestine supporters. Dude, you never know what the fuck you're talking about, and we live in the information age.
March of 2025 would prove to be Judgment Day for Snow White and Zegler in particular. And well, you don't need me to tell you how that one went down.
And again with the Lilu laugh. What gets me about these clips is that he can't even get a high-quality version of it. You can tell this man has been using the same clips he screen-grabbed back in the Obama administration.
In fact, it became one of the biggest bombs in Disney history, getting absolutely savage reviews and losing the studio hundreds of millions of dollars.
Remember that this man was the one that said critic reviews don't matter and that the only reviews from Rotten Tomatoes that do matter are the audience's.
So it was off to Rotten Tomatoes for me to check out the reviews. Not the critic reviews, of course, because nobody in their right mind gives a shit what those fucking shills have got to say about anything anymore. Because nobody in their right mind gives a shit what those fucking shills have got to say about anything anymore.
Notice how he's showing a 73% and is ignoring that most people who actually saw this movie liked it. This man is the living embodiment of this meme.
Now there was just no hiding it anymore. Zegler had basically gambled her entire career on the success of this film, and she lost big time.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no, how terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
Very funny, much laugh. This video is going to age particularly poorly when she gets cast in another big movie. If you think Snow White is the last big movie Rachel will be in, Well, I guess we'll be back here with another Exposing the Grift video telling you how your predictions are dog shit and that you have to change your video titles and thumbnails to hide those shit takes.
So what was the fallout of all of this? Well, it seems like Zegler's career might be over before it even began. With an absolutely toxic public image, a reputation for causing problems behind the scenes, and no major successes to prop her up, she just doesn't have the political capital in Hollywood to absorb this kind of failure. No casting director in his right mind is going to put her in a high-profile movie at this point. She's got no major film or TV projects coming up, and seems to have retreated back into theatre roles with a West End production of Evita, which apparently isn't doing too well either.
And she didn't have the cachet when Spielberg hired her for West Side Story, which, although was not a financial success, was a critical one. Then she did Hunger Games and crushed that role. As I mentioned earlier, Snow White is apparently seeing big success on Disney+, which has over 100 million subscribers. So, by these metrics, she is a successful actress, even if the films she's been in haven't been box office smashes. Once again, we do not judge the quality of films on box office success, so I don't even know why you and I are talking about that. And absolutely no one should be surprised when I tell you that Drinker conveniently left out her other theatrical performance on Broadway of Romeo and Juliet, where the show was so successful it extended its run a month longer than it originally was supposed to end and sold out the venue, earning the highest grossing limited engagement in the venue's history. It's almost like this guy cherry picks to fit his narrative.
Oh no! What happened?
So that's it. Lies, manipulation, and more lies. Rachel is the latest in a long line of women being punching bags for these culture warriors. Because she's relatively outspoken, they have made her the enemy, which is ironic because she's apparently so irrelevant to Hollywood, they can't stop making videos on her. I, for one, look forward to the day she gets cast in the MCU, an event that will get these guys so wet, you're gonna need scuba gear to make it through the wave of videos they're gonna produce.